Music, the power of a nigun, as we all know, it's incredible power. It is the power to spiritually uplift us, and it is that power to put us in depression and pain. It can take us to all type of directions. I wanted to introspect a little bit into this incredible spiritual power that we're also familiar with just by the feelings, not by the words that lies behind it. Something that's found very often in the Torah. Don't think that it's only some goyisha hamtzah, something that just came around by the goyim. As we all know, in our parsha, in Parshas Yashir, we saying the shira. As the Baal HaTurim brings, there are 10 shirot in the Torah. There's by the Shir Yam, we know Shir Dvara, there's Shir Hazinu, there's Shir by the Be'er, there's David HaMelech who's saying 2 times. Yeshua has a Shira, you have Yechezkel who brings 2 Shira, one of them being by Mashiach. Shira is something that is found very often in the Torah, an incredible, powerful type of feeling. There's the Shir of the Levim, that even when they had their nigunim, it says in the Gemara that people would be chozer b'tshuva when they heard the power of the Nevim and their powerful song. The people would bring back people from tshuva. The Rabbeinu Bechaya writes in the beginning of Parshas Nosor, it's called Avodat Avodah, the Avodah of the Kohen Gadol, to be able to go ahead and sing those shirot. They had 7 notes, just as we have 7 notes. We have 7 keys on a piano. We all know that there's 7 different notes, and that's the 7 notes that they had in by the musical musicians over there in the Beit HaMikdash. But you should know that L'Atid Lavo there's going to be a number 8, because as we all know, 7 has everything to do with the power of 6 directions in this world, and 7 is connects all those 6 disparate pieces to become one. That's the power of 7. That's why we have 7 days of creation, 7 days with Shabbat. That's why there's a number of 7s that exist in our language, such as obviously the 7 days of Sukkot, and the 7 days of Pesach, and the 7 days of Avelut, and the 7 brachot. The list goes on. There were 7 ananim, ananei kavod. In the Midbar, we have 7 sfirot, and we have the Sfirot Omer, which was 7 times 7. 7 times they walked around Yericho, 7 continents. We all know that the number 7 is found very often and has everything to do with Olam Hazeh. But L'Atid Lavo, in the future, we're going to add a number 8. Number 8 is going to be that 8th note on the piano, that 8th key that is added in, because that is Lamala Min HaTeva. Anytime you do something a little bit above the Teva, it's always represented by the number of 8. Of course, the 8 days of Chanukah, and of course the 8th day of Shmini Atzeres, was just us and Kadosh Baruch Hu. Of course, the 8th day where you do Brit Milah, and we all know that's the power of 7. That's why in Az Yashir it's Az, Aleph, Zayin. There's the Zayin, which is 7, and Aleph, which is 1, because it goes one step above. It goes a little bit over and beyond. And that's the idea of the number 8, which will happen L'Atid Lavo Shvuot, which is the day of Matan Torah, is on the 50th day, 7 times 7, and then number 50 is number 8, Kebiyochel, the 8th day that goes over and beyond. Al Panim, we see the power of Nigun, the power of Shir is incredible, and it's all over the place. The Malachim, the angels, the angelic figures, they sing Shir Be'ofen Tamin, Marichim, Umeshabchim, Umefarim, Umevarchim. On a constant basis, they're singing Shira, Lishmo Kol Kanfeim, as the Gemara Chagiga says, that you can hear the power of their wings. They're singing the praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we all know, of course, the Perek Shira, the Shira that was the song of all of creation, when all the creation sings the praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shemesh Begivon Dom. When the sun was quiet, it stopped moving in the time of Yeshua, because the Etzem Shira is not something like us that we just develop a song and we get inspired by it. It was their being, it was their mahut, it was their essence to sing. Its whole function works al pi singing the praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and making that connection. Of course, we all know that Shaul always was interested in David HaMelech, Noam Zmirat Hashem, the one who knew the great power of song. And lastly, we know there's an idea of Tanta, which is the Ta'amim, Nekudot, Otiyot, and the Tagim. We have 4 aspects to the Torah, and one of the highest of all the aspects, above the letters and even above the crowns and the punctuation, is the Ta'amim, the song of the cantillation, the cantillation tunes. Those are the ones that we sing. Those are the ones that bring a spirit to the letters. Those are the ones that speak spirit to the words. They have an incredible power. And that's why they're not written in the Torah. Someone one time came to Rav Yashiv and he wanted to make a plastic with a computer printout based exactly according to the Sefer Torah, put on top of the page of the Sefer Torah, and that way the Baal Korah wouldn't have to prepare, because on this see-through plastic, you would be able to have the cantillations exactly as it's written according to the words. It won't be written in the Torah, but it'll be on top. And Rav Yosef said that's very problematic. Al Pisod, you're not supposed to have them there. It's not meant to be there, and therefore it's not there. Al Kopanim, of course we're familiar with this incredible idea that we call a niggin, that we call a song, that we call music. So great is this power, says the Ramban in Shar Gemul, these words, En begashmi udak ke muzika. There's nothing in this world that is more subtle, more refined, more esoteric, more spiritual than music. Of course, he's referring to after Torah. There's nothing that you will find in the physical world because Torah is not physical. But in the physical world, the most spiritually connected thing you can get to, of course, is music. Ad kedei kach, as we all know, that when a person has a song, a good song, he wants to dance. Where does that dance come from? It's the neshama coming to come out of his body. It's coming to have a spiritual revelation. It wants to go and reconnect to its creator. And therefore suddenly you find your body moving. It's such a funny thing to see that suddenly a few rings and a few this and a few tunes over here, and suddenly your body starts doing a ringle to the right, to the left, a leg up, a leg down. All of a sudden you find yourself having a tremendous connection, and it comes from this incredible spiritual phenomenon that we call music. The Manot Levi in Megillat Esther writes that's why an incredible thing that a tinok, you can't talk to him from here till tomorrow, but he won't understand a word. But suddenly you play him a niggin and he falls asleep. He falls asleep because it's speaking to the spirit, to the neshama, to the ruach inside of the person, not necessarily the sechel per se. And therefore it has an incredible feeling. We all know no one can describe, no one can understand, as Rav Shimshon Pincus in the Shar Mitzvah says, that you go ahead and try to describe someone how tasty you're making a chocolate mousse 7-layer cake and start describing to him all the ingredients and everything that goes into it, and you go ahead and describe it to one person and his mouth starts watering and the other person doesn't know what you're talking about because he's never tasted it before. If a person's familiar with it, then it happens. When I was younger, I used to eat entenmann's, and here it is, I try sometimes to describe to a good Israeli what entenmann's is all about. Of course, I don't touch it anymore because of the Chol Yisrael thing. But when you go ahead and try to describe to some Israeli what's an entenmann's, he just goes, Ugat ta'im, it's like tasty cake. So what? Nah, it's oilam haba. You don't understand. It's something different. You just can't relate to what I'm describing. Sometimes you just have to taste it, to appeal to it, to relate to it, to have some type of contact with it. And that's what music is all about. With music, only after you've experienced it, you can describe it. You can understand it, you could feel it. I could talk from here till tomorrow, but only those who have come in connection with this incredible power that we call music, they understand exactly what I'm talking about, and l'da'ati, everyone who's listening to this has. Don't think this is just some idea that I'm taking, some idea and concept. The Vilna Gaon used to say, the Pet HaShochan, the Talmud of the Vilna Gaon said from his Rebbe, Hu Haya Omer, he used to say these words, Ki Rov Ta'amei Torah. If you really understand the reasons and the Sodot of Shirei Leviim, to understand the Sodot behind the songs of the Levim, and the Sodot of the Torah, and the Tikunei HaZohar, he said, the only way to do it is Iev Shar Ledat Biladeo, without the idea of knowing the power of a nigun, without the power of music. Al yada, through it, Yecholah b'nei Adam, lamut beklot nafsham b'neimut. Person can die from the beauty of the music. He means a deathly type of feeling, just a type where it's just kind of defunctions you. It puts you down and you listen with incredible ease. It just relaxes you. It can take you out of a depressing mood or the other way around. And a person can be, these are the words of the Goyen, if a person would know the sodot that lie behind him, and they say one of the 7 chokhmot, amongst the many chokhmot that the Vilna Gaon knew, but one of the prime 7 chokhmot that he knew was the chokhmah of music. That's what it says. Hu amar shekama nigunim, there are many nigunim. Listen to this one. He said there are many nigunim and midot that came from, where? Moshe Rabbeinu and Har Sinai. From Moshe Rabbeinu, we have a hand-me-down also to the power of music. This is the sound of music, the beauty of music, and its power at its best. It's an incredible thing that even the Vilna Gaon, the man who's Kula Torah, still can relate to the fact that music is so powerful. Okay, this is the idea, this is our pticha to understanding this incredible revelation that we know, that we call music. Now, how does this music work? How does it work? Well, the idea behind it, more or less, has to do with 2 aspects, as we're familiar with. There's 2 aspects to music. There's the aspect that's the the nigun, the rhythm, what we call the melody, that has the up and down part to it, that part is a much more spiritual aspect for it. That's the one that touches your neshama. That's the one that, as they say, is without gvulot. It doesn't have any limitations. It goes over and beyond. And of course, there's the other aspect, which is behind the harmony and the lyrics, is of course the words itself, the lyrics itself. The words itself, that is the part that is much more cognitive, much more understood, much more that we can connect to, so to speak, to relate to it. Both are needed, both are intertwined. You should know, there is a machloket between the Chabad and Breslov. Chabad is much more into the nigun, doesn't have to have words, just the actual power of music itself, that itself exemplifies, it puts itself in you, it goes in your bones, and that can put you on a mile. We all know the beautiful idea of just a straight melody without having any words. But then there's the second aspect, which the Breslov holds is the main function, and the main function, of course, is the words. The words takes from the right brain, the part that's a little bit more abstract, the part that's a more dimyoni, and it takes it to becoming a little bit more sichli, into the sechel, to the place where it connects actually to the mind, where it physically is able to be placed, to be able to put there in a place where I can actually connect to the words, to relate to the words, to be able to grow from the nigun. The nigun speaks to the lev, to the neshama, but the word speaks to the sechel, which is more bound. It's more limited. It has much more of a left-brain approach, a much more cognitive. It's actually a little bit more limited, but it actually is somewhere where you can grow from. And therefore, really, really, the importance are both together. Both together have the power of being able to grow, to be able to gain. And it depends on the individual, and each individual takes it to his own perspective, to his own place. Some people will take from the same nigun something depressing and it'll put them in tears. I remember very clearly one time being on a point of transportation. I was on an airplane and someone next to me was playing music of an old song that I remember. I won't call it a nigun, I'll call it an old song back from the 80s, which related me back to so many things from so many years ago, decades and decades ago, and suddenly just put me in such a mood, such a place, whereas the other person was smiling, he was laughing from the nigun, it didn't bother him from the song. Didn't bother him at all, he was just connected. What's the difference? It's the same song. How do we come from two different places? The answer is, it puts you in a certain place. It places your mind in a certain area. And that place is where I can connect to it. It brings out the best of your neshama, or maybe sometimes the worst. It all depends on the person himself. The Matanot Chaim, that's Rav Matityahu Solomon, has a piece in Purim about this subject, and he intertwines the piece of music together with wine. And just like we know that wine is meant to be a means to an end, what we call a heichi timtze, not an end in of itself, as the Mishabura writes in the Bir Halacha, he says, don't make wine an end to become a drunkard on Purim. It should be a way of becoming tipsy and connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So too, the power of music. That's the idea of music, especially the music we might be singing on Purim coming soon, is the idea of trying to connect ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to bring out a part of us that sometimes is limited. We just can't get there, but we need the melody, the rhythm of the up and the down, and those 7 chords that kind of just gets to the chords of our heart. Those are the places where sometimes we're able to actually relate, to get there, instead of just being systematic and robotic. Sometimes when you're learning something completely cognitive, suddenly you feel I so remember one time about a few decades ago when I was a bacher in yeshiva, and I remember I had a Rebbe who himself was a Baal Tshuva. And I remember we all singing the song, and everyone was singing Ana Avda Kucha Brichu. And we're all singing, like, if I could say, it's just a system that people do it, and you enjoy the song, but it's something that we're familiar, a tune that we're all used to, and therefore we're all singing it. But I remember looking at him, and it so stands so boldly in my mind almost 40 years ago, 35 years ago or so, and I still see it in front of my face, him looking with his eyes closed, standing in the circle, singing Anna with the words, the focus of the words. He took the nigun, but he placed his mind on the words. I'm an Eved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm an Eved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it got deeper every time he said it. And even if we wanted to change the tune, it wasn't changed, he kept going. Anna, enough, how many times can you say the same song? No, you don't understand. You know, I can come here and say the same shir every week and nobody will listen. FS, people don't want to hear the same thing every week. Every week they want to hear something different. They want to hear something entertaining. But what's with the song? I also am jealous of singers. They know the same words to the same songs, same concert, same place, and they do it and they're incredible. and they have stand-up audiences, sold out crowds. What's the pshat? Same words. The answer is there's something about that nigun that puts the words into the kishkas. It makes it part of you. It makes it part of your heart. That makes it connect to it in such a way. It's the power of the melody, but don't leave the melody just for the melody itself. Make it do a change. Make it some type of alteration. It has to go ahead and affect you in some type of way. It has to do something where you can make some type of metamorphosis. I know not every song is going to do that, but you have to take the song and connect it to take you to somewhere else. There are these great minyanim, and there are minyanim that have these excellent songs, and we know there's some things called as Kolbech Binyanim, Breslov Binyanim, all these Binyanim, they go ahead, or Parshas Beshalach, Tafka now, they try to do a Shabbat Shira with all these beautiful songs and everything. If it's just that for the song itself, then it could be, we might be missing the point. We're there to take those melodies, take those songs and do something with it, to put us in a different place, to make it a little bit more everlasting, a little bit more connected. What can I do with this to take me weiter, to connect me to a place that's even over and beyond? With this we can understand a very interesting idea. This idea is brought to you in the Achronim. Many of them. Rav Hutner brings in Pachad Yitzchak and Shvuot and Pesach. You should know Rav Schwab in Iyun Tefillah on Oz Yasher. He brings it to Malbim in Tehillim and Kuf Aleph. Speaks about this idea, and the Sharim B'Tefillah Rav Pinkas and others say an incredible difference. There is a big importance difference between when we talk about what we call a shir, which is a song, and when we talk a zimra. Isn't that the same word? A zimra is also a song. They're both zimras, they're both songs. What exactly is the difference between the two? So the difference is a shir is a string that's attached to an animal. It's a Gemara in Shabbat that brings about that you hold a cham or a donkey by its neck with a rope. You wrap around its neck with a rope, and that's called a shir that holds on to it. A shir, a song, is what we call instant inspiration. You go ahead and you listen, you get an up from it, you enjoy it, but you know what? Not always is it something lasting. It's quick to go in and quick to go out. Not always. You can go ahead and take it, you can continue with it, and you can go ahead and make something of it. And yes, these are the shirim that we spoke about. All the 10 shirim that we discussed before, about the Shirat Hayam, the Shirat Be'er, happened after an incredible miracle, a point of inspiration, a point of Shevach and praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you so much, Hashem. And you go ahead and you sing the praises to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's great, but as we all know, even when someone goes through Lo Aleinu, a hard time, and he says, thank you to Hashem for pulling me out of there, a few days later, a few weeks later, a few months later, usually it's a little bit died down. The connection is not necessarily there anymore. It pulled you. For some of us it lasted, and for the most of us it didn't. That's the koach and the beauty of a shir, and it's important, but like I said, it could be usually temporary. As opposed to a zemer, what we call zimra, such as the Mizmor LeDavid, all the Mizmorim that David HaMelech sang in Tehillim are called a Mizmor. We sing the Zmirot on Shabbat, or of course we say Psukei de Zimra in davening. That's a different type of level. A Zemer is interesting because it's what we call in English a contronym. It's something that the same word can be used for one direction and its counter opposite. You follow? Lamashal. If you have the word da'at, ve'adam yeda et chava, when Adam had relations with Chava, it's known as yeda, meaning a complete connection. But you know, da'at also is the opposite. We say in Havdalah the word da'at. We say chonin da'at, because chonin da'at is the one who knows how to make a difference between kodesh v'chol, who knows how to see a difference between one and the other. Or we know the idea of kiddushin, when a man is mekadesh and isha. Be'etzim, the idea of hegdesh is making it usher to the whole world. When he's mekadesh a woman, he makes her usher to the whole entire world. Hegdesh, when he makes something, sanctifies it, he makes it usher to the whole entire world. But kiddushin, that's the ultimate connection. Chibur, that's the ultimate relationship that we have. You're mekadesh and isha. You sanctify her, become connected to her by answering her to the whole entire world. So we see the same world can have opposite connotations. The word zemer, of course, is the idea of shavach v'halal v'hodah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I go ahead and connect to Hashem. At the same time as zemer also means zomer. It's one of the malachot on Shabbat. The zomer is to prune a tree. When you break off a branch, when you disconnect it, when you find some disaffiliation between some one thing in another, you're zomer, you break. So at the same time we're talking about separating, breaking a tree, breaking off its branches. At the same time, the zemer is the one that makes the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How does that work? The answer is the real way to make the real proper connection through a zemer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is close the ears. Disconnect from the outside. Try to slowly but surely focus on the words. Focus on the melody, on the nigun, on the zemer. At the same time as you're focusing on those words, make that decision to make a connection. To go ahead and make a connection, and you'll suddenly find yourself in a different world. It's much different than just an immediate sheer of gratification. It comes from a place of actual connection, which comes through a little bit of work. When you prune a tree in your zomer, when you break off the branches, you're doing something that looks bad, but is very beneficial. We all know it helps the tree. That's the whole reason why you're doing it. And that's the idea. When Psukei de Zimra, you're meant to go ahead and have a little bit of concentration on the words at the same time as you might be singing it. You're supposed to focus, concentrate, put a little of what we call rikuz, put all your energy into the words and try to take it to another level, take it a little bit higher. If you just hear it in a shir, such as now, or read it in a book, it won't be anywhere close to when you hear it in a song. So take the song and use it for its incredible power. As we all know, Lamashal, the halacha is that the Gemara says that one should not be singing psukim, and it's a really big question amongst the poskim if you should be singing psukim or not be singing psukim, and we all know we're just not keeping to that one. So I once heard B'Shem Rav Pam that he used to say, if a person comes to sing and he adds some psukim, that's what the Gemara meant when it says it's usher, it's not allowed. But if a person wants to say a pasuk and he wants to put a little bit of flavor into it, he wants to connect, he wants to put himself in another place, over here it's a different area. Over here you're raising yourself, you're raising the bar, of course that's mutter. That's a mitzvah, that's a good thing to do. I know someone who lived not far away from the Steipler Gaon, believe it or not. He didn't live very far away from the Steipler many, many decades ago, almost 50 years ago. And he said at 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes he would go out in his merpeset and he would hear the Steipler, who was with the stender outside of merpeset, suddenly singing, Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin, Be'emuna Sheleima. And he was mummified because the Steipler never wasted 1 minute. And here he was with his Gemara outside, but he stopped in the middle because he suddenly felt a connection. He suddenly felt a zetz of a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he took it to a different level. He took it to a place where he could do it with a nigun, not just stam. He took it to a place where he could make that extra connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what a zemer is all about. And that's the beauty of zemer, the beauty of music. And that's what's so good about it. And that's why you're supposed to use it. That was the Shir Delavim. At the time when the avodah was going, avodah le'avodah. It was there to be, as long as it was utilized for the right way. Of course, everything can be used for the good and for the bad. You have to be extremely careful not to falterate, to make sure that it doesn't go to the wrong directions. I want to tell you what the Reshit Chochmah says. You know what the Reshit Chochmah says? He brings from the Midrash that when Shechem was with Dinah, it uses 3 words, dveikut, cheshek, and chefetz. Dveikut is relationship, a connection. Cheshek is a drive, an instinct. And he had a chefetz, he was interested, a ta'ava. He says those 3 words are also used for a nigun. It can be used for tumah, that's what Shechem was using it for, or it can be used for kedusha. A person makes that decision how he wants to take it. It's the shorsh of dveikut, the way to do it, having a dveikut, a cheshek, a chefetz. That's where Vlapian over there brings in the parsha. This idea that it has this capability of going in both directions. So here we have it. Bi'ikaron, what we've learned thus far today is the idea that there's a shir and a zemer. And you have immediate gratification, there's much deeper. When we talk about the deeper gratification, we said there's 2 parts to it. There's the nigun and there's the words. Both are important. One is the leiv and one is the sechel. We need to have both of them in order to inspire us. And what is it? Drive. It takes whatever's within you and it makes more of it, and it fluctuates it. It makes extra. It drives it out, what's within you. If a person is malei tuma, it'll use it for tuma. If a person is malei kedusha, it'll pull it up for kedusha. And if a person needs help and wants to get there, that's how we're supposed to use the music. That's the beauty of the nigun. That's where it's supposed to take us. There was once a Rosh Hashiva who had to go to 2 weddings in the same night. Familiar story. But the problem is it was quite a distant away. And he had to be Mesader Kedushin in two places at the same time. Now, of course, we're not talking about Eliyahu Novi, so he had to figure out how he was going to do that. So he did the first Kedushin, he was Mesader, and then he left quite quickly. He jumped in a cab, and there was a person there, if I could say a little bit of a colored man, and he told him, listen, buddy, you got to put the pedal to the metal because I got to get to another chasana within a half, he didn't say chasana, he said wedding, within a half an hour, and the place is quite far. It was an hour drive. So the guy said, listen, buddy, I know what you guys don't like. There's a certain type of music that I like. Let me turn on the radio. Let me turn on to the rap music, which I'm into. Let me listen to that, and I'll get you there in a half an hour. Boom, 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 boom. And he got him there swerving around left and right, and he was able to get him there in a half an hour. I don't know if he had the head to be Mesader Kedushin after that. But anyways, we see the power from the same power of music, can take it in both directions. It all depends if you're Shechem or if you're Yaakov Avinu. It all depends on what direction you're going to take it. And this is the power that we were discussing and what you're capable of doing. I'll end with a halachic point that comes out of this, a very interesting one that comes out from this one that will finish, is in the Birkei Yosef, that's the Marana Chidan, Tavkuf Samech. Someone, he brings the Meiser Rokeach and others that were upset with chazanim that were using tunes of the Goyim. Now we're talking about a Sephardi posek, and they were obviously discussing Arabic cantillations. Ha 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 ha, right? That type of music, you know what I'm talking about? And anyways, and he was very upset. These people were very upset about it. And he goes at length to say and prove that a nigun, a tune, is not mikabel tumah. It has not become something wrong with it. It's the words that make the difference because it takes you to the direction. But using a nigun, using a tune in the direction that you use it, is okay as long as it's used for a davar shebekdusha. That's what the Birkei Yosef comes out, and he says, okay, the Yechavedat also brings this and concurs. He agrees with this idea. That's Ravad Yosef. The Igrit Moshe also, in a similar note, listen to this, he was asked that there is a person who learned in yeshivas, and he's a Talmid Chacham b'midah mesuyamit, and he goes ahead and he makes groups of boys and girls, bachurim and bachurot, that sometimes are sitting side by side, etc., and he's doing a lot of inspirational music. I think we all are familiar who he was talking about. He was talking about obviously these Carlebach disguises, but over here we're talking about the real Carlebach. It was happening at the time, and they were wondering if, with tzaddik, not tzaddik, I don't know. I'm not going to what status he was, but they wanted to know, is there something wrong with listening to this type of music or these types of scenarios? Now, he's not talking about going to any mixed events. That's not what he's discussing. He's talking about post. After he's not alive anymore, can you still go? And over there, Moshe basically says a min who writes a Sefer Torah, a heretic who writes a Sefer Torah, has to be burnt. But if someone who is immorally incorrect, or he's not Peseder, or these types of things, he's not the best of best, it does not passel, he says, the Sefer Torah does not make it not necessarily wrong, and therefore he held that it is beseder to listen to the music as long as you use the music for its right direction. Ein lashir davar shebekdusha. It doesn't have any davar shebekdusha to it, and therefore he says it's okay to go ahead and do it unless we're talking about someone who had some type of kfira to him, some type of heresy, so then it would be a problem. But just if he's a little bit has certain issues, might be okay. I'm throwing this out parenthetically. Listen to this. People agree or don't agree, it doesn't matter. You could shelve it if you don't agree. That what happened with Chaim Walder and people trashing all his books, I do think it connects to this tshuva of Rav Moshe Feinstein. I wish Rav Moshe was alive at the time to be able to paskin this, but to me this sounds exactly the same. He says if the guy was a kofir, a heretic, said some type of apikoros, if he was a Christian or an Arab, if you will, and he was writing books, trash them. But if the person had a bad history and he wasn't such a good guy, and yes, he had issues with him, so he says the books are not a davar shebekdusha, the shir is not a davar shebekdusha, you can use it as long as you use it for decent purposes. Rav Moshe didn't seem to have a problem with it. Take the tshuva of Rav Moshe, cut and paste, and you tell me what you think, if you agree or don't agree. I'm happy if people give me feedback, because to me it sounds like there wasn't necessarily a reason to trash all his books per se, even though I'm not vouching for the person at all. Okay, don't worry, that's not what I meant. Anyways, so that is the tshuvas that we see over here, that music can be good, music can go bad, it's all a matter of direction. It's there to bring out the beauty of the person, to bring the beauty that lies within the person, and that is this incredible matana present, and one of the 7 chokhmat which I mentioned that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us that we call the power of a nigun. And therefore, if a person goes to one of these minyanim, if you go to a Parsha B'Shalach minyan, or when you're singing Az Yasher, or when you're doing any of these types of things, no problem, it's great. We listen to music, I listen to music, we all do it. Just try to channel it to the direction it's supposed to be channeled. Try to take it to a place which is a good place. Try to use this incredibly powerful utensil, not to be a drunkard, not to roll around in your, if I could say, you're being sick or whatever, to go ahead and take it to the wrong place. Drink in order to bring yourself to the right place. Drink in order to get there. When you listen to the music, channel it. Bring out the best that's within you. Show how much you can be davik to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And from there, we will sing the praises that we say in Nishmat Kol Chai on a constant basis, with which Rav Pinkus says, he says a person should be kone the kishron of music, of connection to a nigun. It's important to sing. We sing Hallel, we sing Mizmor LaTorah. We're supposed to sing and to be Oved Hashem with the Mizmor LaTorah because it gets us in a neshama, in a place of nishmati, and we're big believers of going ahead and using it. But he says, as of course we say in Nishma Kochai, sheken chovat kol yitzurim lefanecha, Hashem Elokeinu, lehodot, lehalel, lefaer, leromem, lehader, levarech, lekales. The praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are meant to be said. Al kol divrei shirot v'tishpachot David ben Yishai avdecha. Shabbat shalom.